I'm inclined to be like the idiots in the comments who say, just use your controller, bro. Because this setup is so close to being awesome for vertical gaming, and I'm sure if I tested 3DS on my Samsung S24, it would work quite well. But there is an elephant in the room.
There is?
The elephant of cognitive load. Yes, I have learnt a new psychological concept, so good luck, I guess. There is something that retro emulation and especially modding original hardware is tapping into, and that is reducing cognitive load.
Cognitive load refers to the total amount of mental effort and resources used by a person's working memory at any given time.
Science. And what does it feel like to reduce cognitive load? It feels like this. I must admit, I discounted MagicX as just another producer of ewaste. Well, in the beginning, they kind of were, but they seem to be on the warpath, the good kind, to develop fun and exciting handhelds into 2026. And the 040 is part of this new roadmap to success. A small Android gaming handheld with a 4-inch 480p screen and a modest A53 all-winner chipset with only 2 GB of RAM. I almost never talk about specs on this channel, but this is particularly interesting. Because if you know a little bit about Android, you'll know that that chipset and that amount of RAM won't run shit. You'd need a miracle to get something working on this thing. So maybe MagicX are in fact deities sent to bless us with the wonder of their godly powers. Or something normal. What makes it more interesting is that it does only 2 things well: play arcade games and play Nintendo DS. That's it. That's all you get with this little device. So let's talk about the operating system. In order to make things work, they've removed Google services and anything that uses up RAM, like Google Chrome, App Store, any app that's going to take up memory on this device. The front end is their own Dawn loader, but it is essentially Dodgy that's been modded for permanent vertical or Tate use. It's great, but I just don't know if they've even acknowledged Tapioca Fox like anywhere. I haven't seen anything in the system that says forked from Tapioca Fox or thank you Tapioca Fox for Dodgy. And while we're on dodgy things, there's a version of Bellatra on here, which is a paid Android app. I mean, you know, you can get it on Portmasters on Linux devices, but it's not available for Linux devices, so it just feels icky. I did install Aptoid to test out some apps like YouTube Music, but then I realized this is only Android 10, so you're never going to get that working. But you can, you know, fiddle around and see if you can't get a few apps working here and there. Maybe there's a music player out there that you can sideload or something like that. But to go to my opening statement, this is a 2-trick pony. This is for DS and arcade games, and therein lies the wonder of this little device. So all in all, this is a very clever setup, and it just feels cool to have this like cheap, basic Android handheld that has a touchscreen that's kind of easy to navigate. So for example, here I have favorited an unknown indie game, which I'm obviously not only going to use this device to play that single game. If you go into system settings, there's some adjustments that can be made for appearance, performance settings, which I would just leave at balanced, but I would recommend enabling auto resume. It may cause some glitches here and there, but it's great to have games start up where you left off. I also enabled the game switcher, which is a sneaky little weapon on this 040. You automatically end up in the game switcher after you've exited a game. Let's get right into gaming. To play games on this is such a unique experience. It feels kind of cool, I must admit. The controls are not bad, but at $105 US, $105.99 USD, I was expecting a little bit better. The action buttons lock from time to time. I can't actually simulate it, but they make like a clacking noise and get stuck while you're playing. This is an issue that appeared in some older Anbernic devices, but I haven't seen it in quite some time. The joystick is cardinal snappy, but you know, who cares since it's a DS and arcade machine. Regarding the D-pad, I noticed some ghost inputs while playing the plumber game, but it seems to be an unfounded issue because it was fine everywhere else. What they have done well though is make sure games actually play on such a tight squeeze on performance. You get a little bit of glitchiness here and there, but once that sort of graphical buffer loads, it seems to play fine on almost every single game I tested. Because I mean, like, if you think about the older emulation handhelds that were sort of low performance like this, DS was always an issue. It was always difficult to emulate, and they've got it down pat on this device. Games also sound pretty good thanks to the dual front-facing speakers. Front-facing, cough and Bionic cough. Also, I am guessing that one of the big reasons for wanting Android was to allow for touchscreen gaming, which kind of transforms the whole experience. A cheap Android gaming handheld with a touchscreen, kind of cool. Now, regarding the battery, we only have a 4300 milliamp hour battery here. You know, it's not amazing. They claim 7 to 9 hours. I'm not too sure of that because the sleep mode isn't perfect. I lost 10% overnight, which is quite a bit. You know, my retro devices just go in sleep mode for weeks on end. It must be noted that one should not get distracted by one's other desire to make a completely different product, because one will become distracted and one will not notice that this screen is in fact absolute shit. And now for something completely different. Crotch time! I'm wearing tracksuit pants, which are a little bit easier to put a thing in. That's what she said. But it's also wider, so it's going to encroach on your nether regions. So not the best for pocketability, unfortunately. Now, the big question is it good quality? And it isn't. It is made by Ampound in partnership with MagicX, and Ampound are available in a lot of our local Chinese stores, and the products generally are pretty shitty. I think having worked with MagicX, with their expertise and passion to make nice handhelds, this is probably a cut above your usual Ampound products. But you know, it just isn't the best. My power button doesn't click. As I mentioned, the action buttons go clackety-clack. And it's just very basic plastic. And then obviously the rattle doesn't instill much confidence, but I must say the body and the controls do feel quite nice. And then the other comment would be, just get a DS, bro. Yes and no. I will be hard pressed to find a decent used Nintendo DS in South Africa for this price. But yes, the screens will be bigger, the retro feels will be better, and you just can't beat the unmistakable joy of thrifting old games. So while the original hardware is probably still the ultimate, we are at the tipping point where these emulators make a lot more sense, especially financially. So why is this such a great dedicated handheld emulator system? According to mobygames.com, 2,347 games were released on the DS platform. That's a lot of games. Sure, 50% of that was Pokemon games, but you know, that still leaves us with 1,173.5 games to play. Now, this is in direct opposition to my idea of reducing cognitive load, but you could have a lot of fun researching games, favoriting one or two, and only playing those for a while. Or you can do what I do with my personal devices, and I literally just put 5 games in it. So where is all this going? Well, I'm glad you asked, mysterious voice. The whole idea of dual screen gaming has been on everyone's minds for a while, and some more premium handhelds are coming soon in this regard. The Ioneo Pocket DS, the AYN thingy, both Android dual screen handhelds that are imminent. And then MagicX have recently announced a roadmap, as I mentioned at the start of this video. Not just this, but a few handheld concepts that are going to play arcade games, going to play 3DS games. And I wouldn't put it past Bionic to release something similar to this soon, just with better buttons, better screen, build quality, and probably around the $139 mark. So let's clip this and see if my future prediction comes true. In conclusion, my nerdy, very nerdy friends, I want to compare this to my cassette player. It's been on my mind a lot. Why do tapes bring me such peace? And it's that very thing, cognitive load and reducing cognitive load. So like waking up, accidentally seeing an upsetting news article, then getting a nasty email from a client, then having your child drop some dramatic news on you while you're driving them to school, and then you sit down at your desk, you know there was something important to do, and you either know what it is and can't physically get your brain to do it, or you just can't access that information from your mind. This is cognitive overload. Your mind has become so clouded with random, annoying, stressful, undesirable thoughts that you can't do the things you need to. Gaming is supposed to be the literal opposite. It's supposed to be a respite from the chaos of life, a moment of peace, And having just a few games to choose from can remove the anxiety of what you should play and allow you to just sit down for 5 minutes and enjoy an old game from your past or discover something you never knew existed. So for now, the 040 is the only device in the world that does what it does apart from an actual DS at a fraction of the cost. I kind of think it does a great job of what it was created to do.